Well, I'm live apparently, people. I don't know if anybody's there out there. Well, people.
Yeah, you look, you guys talk, yeah, look. You'll see him on there, right?
You know,
And then you may as well start talking. Otherwise, if you start talking now, you have to repeat yourself.
I have to repeat myself.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's wait for anybody to come up. See how we are. Maxine's in a dressing gown. Because it's what we do on a weekend, apparently.
Yeah,
So,
because I work all week.
Well, yeah. See if anybody comes up. Nobody yet. So here we go. Yeah, people. So here we go. It's all happening. In Canada in particular, I don't know if anybody's ever seen what's happening with the police force out there. They don't look like police force. They look like an army, and they literally become thugs. I mean, at the end of the day, they go around and they're just taking people out. I mean, it's ridiculous. There was one incident where they showed this elderly woman with a walker who actually got trampled by a horse going forward. So, but we don't know if she's dead or alive yet. Nothing more's come out about it. It looked pretty dreadful. But I think where we are, we've reached an inflection point now. Now, I listen to all sorts of people from David Icke through Maxine and whoever. I mean, just to get a grasp on different opinions about what's going on. Now, David Icke has a penchant for calling these people psychopaths. A better word would be megalomaniac, because these people at the top, whomever they may be, think that you can fix society by imposing ever more controls. It's been tried before, it never works, but they will not admit that they're wrong. Now, when you look at Agenda 21, which was the original plan for the 21st century, the idea was to install all this new society, this supposed utopian society by 2050, but certain events caught them out in 2019. I don't think they're actually prepared for. So I mean, most of everything that happens is down to what these control people do. But there's one event in 2019 I thought came out from left field somewhere and caught them on the hop. And they had to sort of accelerate, if you like, their plans for humanity. And that event was the collapse of what they call the repay market, which is a repurchasing order system where the banks loan money to each other overnight and sort of pay it back in order. But it's all fiat currency, it's all bollocks. And they had to print trillions and trillions of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever, to sort of balance the system out. But it didn't quite work, so they come up with the idea of, well, we all know what we're talking about, to get the people to do stuff that people wouldn't ordinarily do, and it's called mass formation psychosis. Where it works is that you say there's an event or there's something, could be anything you like. They chose, you know what. Now, as Matthias Desmond said, there's always about 30% of people who can be completely hypnotised. There's no free will. They just do what they're told because they believe authority has some kind of authority. And then there's about 40% or so that, go along with it because they don't want to sort of get in trouble for not complying. And then there's about 30% of us, probably less, that sort of are dissidents basically and won't accept what's being said. So that's kind of where we are.
I'm going to find the phone.
But there's so but megalomaniacs believe that you can solve all the problems with technocratic control or similar. I mean, in the past, you had, I mean, let's take one megalomaniac who controlled Russia for a number of years, Stalin, Mr. Joseph Stalin. And this is where history is not told properly. Look, digress slightly to World War II, right? When Mr. Hitler took charge of Germany and believed that he killed 6 million Jewish people, or gypsies, and the rest. So he took 6 million people out and either gassed them or whatever. But Stalin killed at least 80 million people within 10 years. I mean, come on, compare that. So the communist regime in total took out in excess, believed, of about 100 million plus people compared to 6 million that Hitler did. So, but it's all part of the sort of control system that's been in place. Now, just recently, there's one watching. Hello, who's that? Who's come in?
Oh, what? That might be me.
Oh, right. So it's coming anyway.
Yeah.
I've recently been studying the idea of our history not being what we're told. Now, there's a whole bunch of people out there that I've sort of got into this because I'll look at anything. Because one thing I've always done is I don't believe what authority tells me at all. And I certainly don't believe what most of the academic world says, right? Because everything... Let's get on to one thing, right? Up until about the 1990s, we were told that civilization... Sorry, I'm going all over the place here, but it will all make sense eventually. Civilization was believed to have started about 8,000 years ago with the advent of agriculture. So that's supposed to be what civilization was about. Where we stopped being hunter-gatherers and started working the land and domesticating different animals like cattle and sheep. And then somebody uncovered Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and the whole archaeological world was thrown into complete disarray. They couldn't date the site itself, the Göbekli Tepe temple site. But what they did is use their dating methods to test the soil, apparently, or what's in the soil. I don't really understand it much. And they dated Göbekli Tepe at about 13 or 14,000 years old, or older. And they discovered that it was deliberately buried for a reason. Now, there was another thing that was hypothesized quite a few years back called the Younger Dryas impact event. But a lot of people said, there's no such thing. Where's the impact craters? Well, they were recently discovered that there was about 8 fragments, apparently, of a comet which impacted the Earth about 13,000 years ago, give or take. And Graham Hancock's a great proponent of this thing. And apparently what it did, they all landed in the northern hemisphere from Canada to Siberia. What it did, it melted all the ice. This intense heat melted all the ice. And about 3/4 of the land mass of the northern hemisphere was flooded. Oh, there. That's where the biblical flood comes from. But I reckon that this civilization that built Göbekli Tepe covered it over to preserve it so that future generations would know what was done. So everything that we've been told about history is completely false. And with this, so these other people I've been getting into come up with this thing about this Tartarian Empire, which existed up until about 400 years ago. Now, you can delve into the Tartarian thing yourself and make your own mind up about it. But a lot of these channels, as I say, when you go around the world and there's these buildings, right, very ornate buildings, very well built, domes and all sorts of stuff on top. You can check this out yourself. On things like Autodidactic, there's John Levi. There's a few other sites out there. Once you get into one, you'll find others. And you see these buildings with windows buried in the ground. You see half a window or a bit of a window. And then if they're on a slope, you see the windows sort of disappearing up the slope. Now, they put this down to something that's called the mud flood. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that, what that is, but you can go and check it out yourself, the mud flood. When you start looking at it, you think, hang on a minute, why would anybody dig a hole in the ground and start a building, 2 or 3 meters or more underground? That makes sense. Nothing in this world makes sense anyway. So that's something. So they reckon that somewhere around about the 16th and 17th centuries, this mud flood thing happened. And the previous civilization, which they believe was a worldwide civilization, disappeared. Well, we all know disasters happen. There's all sorts of things going on all the time. And then the people that emerged from this in about the 17th and 18th centuries formed the new system that we've been living under for the last few hundred years, which included a fraudulent banking system which enslaved humanity. And that's where we are today. So we've got these people that took charge of these ancient buildings and repurposed them into different things. So going all over the place again. So everything we've been taught for the last few hundred years is completely false, right? And I've uncovered other stuff like your birth certificate, which is a fraudulent document, right? They first emerged in England in 1878, and what the birth certificate does is turn you from a man or a woman into a person, a corporation. So what they've effectively done is steal your wealth. So they created a fraudulent banking system where all money used to be gold and silver and copper, right? That's what people said: silver coins, gold coins, copper coins, trade. And then when this banking system come along, they started printing up notes based on the fact that there was silver and gold supposed to be in the banks. But over time, they sort of took the sort of gold and silver further and further out the equation, so that all they do now is just print fraudulent notes of it's not money, it's currency. And that's why we're all debt slaves, right? Slavery never ended, just changed the definition of what slavery was. You were a debt slave. And the idea was that these elitists, given the name, would steal all the wealth of the world. Well, what's been going on in the last 2 years? And there will be other events going forward from here where they will steal the rest of the wealth. They will literally leave everybody destitute.
Hello.
They're nearly the completion of this system. All that's been happening, everything they've done since the 18th century was to do one thing: to steal everything. Everything. So they link you to mortgages, which is a debt instrument of death. Anyway, whatever. So they've literally turned you from a free human being, man or woman, into a corporate entity, corporation. Now, governments are not governments, they're corporations. And they cannot legislate for a man or woman, they can only legislate for corporations. This all gets really... I'll try and, when I do future videos, if anyone's interested, we'll try and go into a particular subject at a time. so that we know what's been going on. So we can all make our minds up. But where we are at the moment is the final theft, wealth transfer is taking place before our eyes. Now, the sort of thing is kind of running its course. Too many people have seen that the last 2 years have not been quite right. So now there's things in the pipework, like there may be sort of cyber attacks, or the grid goes down for a number of days, or a day, or whatever, depending on what they decide to do, because they are in control of that. Other things are, I'm going to say this, right? And this is actually being bandied around. There are aliens involved. Apparently. I mean, Bill Gates himself said it. There could be an alien attack, but it will be a fake alien invasion. Probably careful with words because it's going to get taken down. The other thing in the rhetoric at the moment is that Russia is going to attack Ukraine. That's all over the news. That's everywhere. So you've got nutters like Liz Truss, who is our foreign secretary apparently, saying that Russia's an aggressor and needs to be dealt with. Look, if we get to the point where NATO, which should not exist anymore, is saying that Russia's the aggressor. No, NATO's the aggressor. The United Kingdom is the worst aggressor in human history. Let's make no bones about this. Britain, the United Kingdom, is an absolute atrocious corporate entity. It's not a country, it's a corporation. England is a country, Scotland is a country, Wales is a country, and Northern Ireland is a country. Great Britain, the United Kingdom, is not a country, and you are not British. You are either English, or Scottish, or Welsh, or Irish, or whatever other country you come from. But these elites try to set up these multi-corporations. European Union is a corporation. It is not anything. The countries within Europe are countries. Well, they were until certain points when they become corporations. It's all a Mickey Mouse system designed to impoverish it. This is where we're all this. It's all, the whole of the last 300 or 400 years has been a complete nonsense. It's been history rewritten and repurposed for enslaving you in this debt corporate system, which is coming to an end. And the people at the top know this. They've run an empire which was unsustainable, but they come up with all these fancy ideas like green energy is going to save the planet, and if we fight global warming or climate change. It's all nonsense. It's all designed to distract you from what's actually going on. It's the theft of your wealth. Now, I came across a video long way back, and I can't remember exactly what it was about. There was this woman on there that explained, and I think she was more within the UK, but I think it is the same for other countries. Now, when you were born, say there was a certain amount of, I think it was gold or silver, I can't remember which one. So if you when you were born and you weighed, say, £7, within the system was supposed to be £7 weight of silver or £7 weight of gold or whatever, I can't remember, which was your wealth, belonged to you. So when you were of an age where you could do commerce with people, you already had a certain amount of wealth to your name. But when the birth certificates come in, that changed all that. This is the theft. You then became a corporation, and the corporations were able to use your name to steal your wealth. And they've been doing it ever since. So you had wealth to start with, but now you've got none. So what you had to do, you had to become completely indebted. you had to take out debt in order to live, like mortgages, loans. But they're all illegal now because there is no backing of the paper money with any form of hard currency, like hard money, like gold or silver or anything else. Every note they now print is fraudulent. It's counterfeit. It's not money. See, I know I'm going all over the place, but I'm trying to get as many points across to make you realise where we are. This whole system is the biggest misrepresentation of power that's ever been in human history. The people in control are not a government, and Boris Johnson and all the other people that are in charge are not in charge of anything.
Anyway, sorry, guys, nobody's on there yet. I've just posted it live onto put Facebook app back on for a minute.
Right.
Posted it live on there. Whether anybody come on there, I don't know.
Right, anyway. Right. So this is so the misappropriation of all the wealth has been going on at minimum for the last 150 years, since 1878 in this country, and much so all over the globe, obviously, if you believe in the global flat, it's up to whatever. Anyway, so this is where we've got to where we are with this phony money. Now, I don't know what the future is going to hold. All I know is that at some point that they are going to crash the money system as it exists now and try to go with this digital idea. If we allow that to happen, oh dear, then we're screwed, basically. But there's people out there trying to make people wake up to the realisation that if you've got a debt, technically you don't have to pay it back because the fiat currency system is all debt anyway. So there is no money. So the whole system now is a debt system. There is no money in any system. And as I was saying, that the prime ministers and presidents of countries are just representatives of the corporations that run the system. So you don't have a government. And when you think, oh, you had the vote. No, your vote didn't do anything. Your vote didn't mean a bullshit thing. And here's another one. Does anybody out there believe that we left the European Union? No, we didn't, because you're still the corporation that was before we went into the European Union. And it doesn't matter whether you believe you're in or out, you are still within the corporate system, which has existed, say, for the last couple of hundred years. So you could be in out, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. Your vote means nothing. You're conned in for every 4 or 5 years. Believe me, if you vote for this party, they'll make a difference. No, because they're all part and parcel of the same corporate entity that runs the globe. It's complete nonsense. The whole of our existence is a complete fiction. Right, we are still slaves. We are debt slaves until we realise, hang on a minute, if there's no money, why are we paying our debt back? It's stupid. There's a bloke come across this morning who's trying to explain it a bit more. But I've known this for ages anyway, that debt is debt. There is no money in the Bank of England or in the Federal Reserve or the banks in Europe. What they're doing, and they don't even have to print it anymore, they just add it to a computer screen. And every time they do, it makes the currency worth less and less and less and less and less. So eventually there will come a point when, say you take your £5 note, it won't buy you a slice of bread. Because inflation, and I come across the other people think inflation is running at about 12%. No, inflation is running at about 20,000% or 100,000%. But instead of printing like $1 million notes or £1 million notes, they've just inflated the currency supply to a level that's unseen in human history. It's not because they've got computers though. Oh, how many sort of zeros should I add to the supply today? You know, how much can I increase it by without people sussing on that I'm doing something wrong? And it's like, they can take a 1 and add 500 zeros to the end of it and say that's the wealth of the world. But what it does, it means that you are going to have to accumulate thousands upon thousands of £5 notes to go and buy a slice of bread. I mean, an example of hyperinflation, which is what we're in, I believe we're in hyperinflationary thing at the moment, that the Weimar Republic went into hyperinflation in the 1920s and early 30s. And they were literally printing, like $1 million marks or £1 million, £1 million mark notes, 2 million mark notes. I think the last one they did was something like 100 million. I can't remember. Sorry. And then the most recent one was Zimbabwe a few years ago, where the last note they printed, if I remember rightly, was like $1 trillion note or £1 trillion note, and it wouldn't buy you a loaf of bread. That's hyperinflation. That's where we are. They've stolen everything, the wealth of the world, and they don't give a toss. They couldn't give a toss because they've got this belief that they have this divine right to rule over you. But it's I don't know how it's going to end, but it's all going to come down, and they're going to try some more shit before they finally run away, having realised that they can't do anymore. Because how at what point do you realise that you can't print any more notes and people are not going to buy it anymore? There will always be a percentage of people that will not comply with any tyranny, and this is where Matthias Desmet comes in. He's a psychologist who looked at this 2-year event that's been going on sort of right from the very beginning, and realised that there are about 30% of people who are completely hypnotised. They'll just follow orders because the government said. They said the 40% that sit on the sidelines and think, I better go along with it because I don't want to upset people because it might get me in trouble. And then the 20-30% that won't follow orders. It's happened throughout history. So he calls it mass formation psychosis. And this is where we've got to. And so if you was to look at the UK alone, I might call it UK alone, look at these islands. And this is about 70 million people that live within what is called the United Kingdom. I think we've lost. Well, if we've lost 30% of people, it's a lot. We're gonna lose millions. I mean, I don't know the exact. I did write some figures down, but I can't find them anyway. So, but this is where we are, and I think it's going to get slightly worse before something gives way. Now, my dread fear is that some idiot at the top pushes this thing about Russia, that apparently Russia's testing missiles. Well, we do that as well, but you never hear that. Anyone said, the British are testing missiles, the Americans are testing missiles, we'll stop them. Because it's Russia testing missiles, we've got to stop them, they've got to pull back from the borders. But all it takes is for some loony in NATO, which is full of loonies, and the governments, which are full of complete loonies, to push for Ukraine to join NATO, which I hope never happens, heaven forbid, that they push NATO up to the borders of Russia. And at that point, one mistake, bang, you're in World War III. Is this what they want? Because every time that something goes wrong within their system that catches them off centre, which happened in 2019, the 2008 crisis was manufactured. That's a given. Right, that was manufactured to finally shut down any connection with gold or silver. That was his plan. So he could take it completely and utterly out. I mean, it really ended in 1971. But to remove the idea of any reserves, because we live in a system called fractional reserve banking. Now, originally they had to keep something of value in reserve in the banking vaults, but they did away with that completely. From 2008, it sort of went on to a point where don't need any reserves anymore, and that finally hit a few years back. And they can just print what they like now, or add it to a computer screen. So this is where the wealth transfer is coming in. But again, it's like everything's started. So when something catches off centre, they go to war. Now, throughout their roughly 300-year history, well, let's let's put it, the founders of what we call the modern banking system, who founded, believe it or not, the Bank of England, Federal Reserve, and all the other banks, were the Rothschild dynasty that came out of Germany in the mid 1700s. And I think it was Mayer Amstel Rothschild, I think was the original one, and he sent his 6 sons here and there and everywhere to open banks. And that's when all the real trouble started, printing notes that were originally backed by gold and silver, then not backed by anything now. So they've done that. They've stolen wealth. But when something catches them out, they go to war. World War One, World War Two. Who do you think financed it all? Rothschilds and Rockefellers. Look, people think, oh, Hitler was sprung up out of nowhere. But no, he weren't. He was. His original thing was the people at the top supplied both sides with money and arms. This is what they do. So you go to war. So all us Muppets, right, go to war to get killed, to do the bidding of the banking cartels. This is what we've done. This is what's been going on for 200 or 300 years. Nothing happens on this planet without these people being involved. That's fact. Because we allowed it to happen. We allowed these people to take control because we all fell for their bullshit. So what happened is the 30% of the hypnotised that have always existed fell hook, line and sinker for the bullshit. The 40% that followed along, and all the dissidents were hung or killed off. That's what happens every time. Or put in the prison systems. Like in Russia, it was the gulags. Ask Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He spent a lot of years in the gulags because he spoke out against communism. See, so that's what you get. You get 70% of the people in the end follow the system, and the dissidents are rounded up, enslaved or jailed or killed. That's what it is. So you and I are dissidents to the system because we don't believe the bullshit they've fed for the last couple of years. We saw through it. Well, I saw through it before it even started. I knew something was coming. Like, you could see it. They had to do something to cover up the mess of the repo. It's all connected. Join the dots, people. As David Icke always says, just follow the money. Everything is for a reason. There is nothing done without a reason. The event that started in 2020 was a planned event to cover up the repo market fiasco and the fact that they had to bring all their plans forward or just ditch them and lose. So they couldn't commit the final wealth transfer. But they come up with the thing on the computer screen, said, oh, we've all got a lockdown and everyone's got to stay indoors, whatever. See, perfect. And the 30% of people, all going to die. And then the 40% went along with them, and there's the rest of us saying, that's bullshit. Can't people say it? No, they can't, because that's the mass psychosis formation, the mass formation psychosis that Matthias Desmet speaks about. So here we are in 2022, and the nonsense is still going on. The narrative is, and the thing that helps is the mass media. You could not, this thing could not have happened without the media. Nothing that's ever happened in the last couple of 100 years would have been possible without a controlled media. Right from the beginning, from the 17th, 18th centuries, there has been a propaganda narrative that's controlled. See, everything is controlled by the people running the system, the little man putting the levers. And that's how it goes. So people say, no, I'm not buying that. But the mass of people do, because they think these people on the TV, they don't. No, they're all part of the system that tells you there's something going on. And it's like, rabbit. At the beginning of it, 24/7 propaganda about a thing, right, that's not there. Right? It's not. But there's still people, bollocks. It's absolute nonsense, people. I don't think this video on Arsenal, man. Whatever, I can't see it. We can take that because we've seen it. We the dissidents have seen through it because we can't. No matter what happens, we can't be hypnotised by the bullshit because we know that authority actually has no authority over you. If you consider yourself a free man or a woman and not a person or a corporate entity, they've got nothing. They've got no control over you. All they can do is round you up and stick you in the gulags because they're afraid of you. Because there's still too many of us than there is of them. They are a tiny fucking little insect fucking thing. Just stamp on the fuckers. You can end it tomorrow. If we all just got up, every single one of us, and marched into fucking London, you can end it. We need the mass of people to go. 5, 6, 7 million people just descend on London. Right? And it's not. Look what's happening in Canada. You've got that lunatic Trudeau trying to quash the truckers' convoy because he's literally scared of them because they've challenged his lunacy, and the Canadian people are waking up. So what they do, they send in the stormtroopers. What they always do, because they can't allow this to carry on, because it undermines their authority. And if it's going on in one country, then it could get people in other countries to do the same thing en masse, and their whole bullshit system, everything they've told us, has gone. But, and here's the thing, it will go. Because no matter what they do, no matter how much control they think they've got, every single empire or civilization and its currency, its phony money, collapses. In a study, I think this has probably got 2 more years to run, I think. I'm looking at it from my own personal interpretation of events. It'll either end within 2-3 years at the outside, or they'll try something else again, just to try and see if they can hang on a bit longer. But I think they know they've been sussed, and they're now running out of ideas, right? And they're so open about it. They're blatant about it. They're telling you now. And this is the thing. They have told you for the last 300 years what they're going to do. Population's out of control. Depopulate. They've left you crumbs. But most people, only a handful of people see it. Like one thing was the Georgia Guidestones, which was the advent of the agenda for the 21st century, which is the 21. The Georgia Guidestones were its inauguration. Erect what's now known as the American Stonehenge in this place in Georgia, and write 10 commandments on it, or 10 directions for humanity in 8 different languages, including English, Arabic, and all the rest of it. And the top command, or the top thing for humanity, is to maintain humanity under 500 million. They told you what they were going to do in 1980 when they erected these things. See, megalomaniacs do that. The psychopaths do that. They like you to sort of see if you can suss it out, but the majority of people can't.
I've sent this out to some of the people on there, so
they leave you these crumbs, they leave you these little things telling you what they're going to do, and you need to see it. But the majority of people don't see it, and they just walk headlong into a tyrannical, totalitarian system. Now, here's the thing: what's the difference between a dictatorship and a totalitarian system? Well, in a dictatorship, you get some leader comes along, takes charge, and then over a while has to soften because a lot of people don't agree with him, so to keep the people aside, he softens his approach. In a totalitarian society, they give a shit. They just stomp over you. That's it. Because they will not allow dissidents. That's all. They will try everything to demonise anybody who speaks.
I'd say give it about 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, their narrative. And that's it.
Then.
Done. So, yeah, so that's where it goes. And we are the dissidents who they're trying to demonise. Oh, they're spreading misinformation about stuff, right? Oh, we're not allowing that, so we'll shut you down. Because they don't like the truth coming out. But we can't wake enough people up. We never can wake enough people up to make a difference before the entire thing gets to a point of brutality. And it's happening now. I mean, in Canada it's happening. And I dare say it will happen here. You've got to stand firm. We are going to win the war. These elites might have won a couple of battles, but they're not going to win the war unless they just say, "Oh fuck it, let's start a nuclear war." That's it, the end of it. Which I don't think they'll do. But they'll do something. There will be events, and like I say,
oh look, fat on the screen.
Just fat on the screen. So it could be the fake alien invasion, and there's a lot of people reckon they can pull it off because throughout the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and into the 70s, everything was about UFOs. Remember the so-called, what was it in America, when the Roswell thing was supposed to be an alien ship, crash landing, and they took it to the secret hideout and all this stuff. Well, did they find it, or was it just part of the psyop? So throughout the next 30 odd years, there were UFO sightings everywhere, things about alien abductions and stuff like that. But was it really that, or was it just a psyop to get people convinced there might be aliens coming to kill us all? Anyway, but eventually, Project Blue Book got dropped by the American Air Force. So there's nothing here. But just a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, there's sightings of UFOs everywhere. And it's all back in play. But because it's believed by some conspiracy theorists out there that they've been developing anti-gravity technology and such like over the last 30, 40 years, they've been sort of building stuff up there and drip feeding and stuff about sightings of UFOs. This could be one of the things to do, a fake alien invasion using some vessels they built using sort of anti-grav technology, which Tesla was all into apparently, and holograms. Well, because they've got they could do anything with holograms. Like they could project images in the sky. It's quite astonishing. The technology is amazing, believe it. I mean, they've spent billions and billions, if not trillions, on this technology. Because this is what they do. They print trillions, they spend it to their own ends, and leave the rest of us broke. This is what goes on. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions, even quadrillions of dollars, the pounds, they're everywhere. But we don't ever see them because they've spent them on what they want. So this is the transfer of wealth. This is the wealth transfer, the theft. So could they do that? Yeah, why not? Because a few years ago, a professor called Dr. Mark Skidmore uncovered, he's a professor in Washington State, in America somewhere. And he uncovered a kind of missing few trillions of dollars within the defence budget system. So he contacted Catherine Austin Fitz, who used to work for the government years ago, and they uncovered something like $22 trillion missing. Now, what can you do with $22 trillion? Almost anything. But as they delve more and more into it, it turns out that by this financial manipulation and stuff, there's about $90 trillion missing from within the system. So many years back, out came DARPA, right, which is the Defence Advanced Research Program agency, which does all this magical, defence spending stuff and invents all these technologies. Quite ingenious, really. They're at the forefront of this. They're right behind all this technology. Project stuff in the sky. They've been doing it for years. And people say, fucking it's UFOs. I've seen a UFO and I was abducted by aliens. No, you fucking weren't. It's the psychological programming. It's there. People fully buying all this bullshit because they've been drip fed shit for years by Hollywood films. Think about the amount of films, UFO invasions or alien invasions or disease films or end of the world asteroid meteors and all that films. Drip fed for the 50, 60 years. And the programming on the TV programming, it's programming for a reason. You look at this thing, some of us just say, it's just something what non-stop in anything. But some people go, And because it goes into their inept psychology, psycho bit, they think, no, well, that could really happen. Imagine that happening. Imagine if that really happened for real. Imagine an alien invasion or, outbreak of a deadly super virus that spreads around the world and kills everyone. It's all programmed. It's all in the films. It's out there. The Stand by Stephen King, brilliant example. An airborne pathogen that escapes out of a lab in America and just kills everyone. Magic. But here's the rub. Germs, right? The greatest threat to humanity. Quick, get the bleach. Kill everything. Oh, fucking germs. Germs don't cause disease. It's all bullshit. But we've fed the idea that you must be hyper clean and everywhere must be completely sanitised, right? Otherwise, if you get a germ comes in your nose, you're going to die. People, if germs or anything were a major problem to the human race, we would have been extinct before it even started. Thank God, because we live, our body has bacteria all over it. Our gut is full of bacteria and stuff. There's more bacteria in our gut than there are cells in the rest of our body. It's there for a reason. It forms what is called the immune system. So it fights off all this otherworldly stuff. Right? But because of people like Bill Gates, again, who's just a minion, he's not in charge of fuck all. He's just a puppet for the inner core of whoever these people are. So, same as Klaus Schwab, who is the head of the World Economic Forum, looks like Blofeld out of James Bond looking at the cat. Again, yes, he is the current frontman for the system, pushing the Great Reset. By 2030, we'll know nothing will be happy. It's all part of the psychological.
You might see something come in on there because I just put it onto Facebook.
Yeah, it's all part of the psychological operation to dupe humanity into handing over what's left of the wealth of the world. Who's that? Yeah. Hello, whoever you are. Show yourself, please.
You can't see them because I don't know how you do the live thing.
Oh, we're all doing it. I don't figure that out. I mean, I thought we'd get to this, but in the future, we'll all learn how to do this stuff. But there is a way it all come on. Isn't there something we press or people ask for permission to come in?
Yes, but this is your first one, Don. We'll do it probably next time.
So yeah, this is just by way of an introduction because I'm going to start breaking down the various things I've just gone through into actual bits we can talk about a particular topic instead of going all over the place. But the reason I've been sort of rambling about everywhere is because everything is connected. There is nothing happens by coincidence. It's all pre-planned. The whole of the last 300, 400 years since this so-called mud flood, if you want to believe the mud flood, whoever that was has gone off. It's all been planned. It's pre-planned, preordained to a long, drawn out enslavement of humanity. It's probably been done before. I don't know, but there's nothing. Really, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything that happens is pre-planned. These people don't do anything without it being run through every scenario they can imagine to enslave you. That's what it is. So that's where we are. And until such times as I think this is their last attempt at trying to gain absolute total control over humanity by promising you this utopian society going forward. It's bullshit. There's no such a thing as a utopian society, right? We are, and I believe this fully, right? Now, this is a spiritual war, believe it or not. Now, I don't mean religious war, right? Religion's got nothing to do with it. This is humanity, I believe, is a spiritual being or a spiritual entity having a human experience, not the other way around. And this is attempt by all this stuff is to try and diffuse who we really are by lying about our history, which is self-evident now. I mean, there's an example of this thing about this previous civilization called the Tartarians. Now, this one bloke, Campbell, is called, from Autodidactic, took you around certain Australian cities. And there's all these really ornate buildings, beautiful stuff. I mean, made out of stone, 30-foot, 40-foot doorways, windows 14, 15-foot high, domes on the top of everything, right? And these were supposed to have been built by a bunch of convicts within 60 years of arriving at Botany Bay, right? And all over the place. And they started discovering this stuff all over the world. These buildings, as I said, with half-open windows and stuff. People, we don't know, because, as I say, our entire lives, assuming it's for the last few hundred years, we've been lied to. The education system lies to you. The governments lie to you. The banking system lies to you. The television lies to you. Everybody that's on television lies to you constantly, just because they're all part of the brainwashing program, because they have rewritten history completely. Because they're the ones in control. They don't do anything they like because they're in control of the money system or the currency system. And whatever they decide goes. And until the rest of us all wake up and stop believing these people, so they all disappear somewhere, which they will do eventually. I firmly believe that. It's not going to change. It will change at some point. We eventually will win the war. A lot of people are going to die in this changeover period. A lot. I mean, as brother Alexis Brunello said the other day, he reckons 2 billion people are already dead. They just don't know it. So take that. Mark Eden thinks 1 to 3 billion within the next 3 to 5 years. Take a pick. Who knows? But they're all dead anyway. So this is a sad fact. Anybody that's had the is dead. They're just the Walking Dead. They're the zombies. They're not dropping down dead on mass at the moment, but they probably will be at some point. This was the plan. See, again, like I said to you, and then there was a meeting in 1991 at the UN, biggest criminal organisation on the planet other than the World Health Organization, where they said that humanity, or the human race, had to be reduced to 800 million by the middle of the century. See, again, the 2050 thing, middle of the 21st century, 2050, that was the original plan. Everything, David's Drone Adventures, hello.
David, that's David.
Hello, David. So that was the plan from the beginning. 2050 was the deadline to implement all their agenda, including all the so-called green energy stuff and the depopulation program, whatever you like. They had to get, or their plan was to get to where they could control everything.
Right, David.
But as I said, in 2019, the repo thing caught them off guard, and they had to bring forward all their agenda by 20 years, which meant that they had to rush everything. So a lot of people woke up that they didn't expect to wake up, more than they thought. Because I've always maintained that in the past there's only about 5 or 10% of us that are awake. But now we've got about 20-30% awake, judging by the numbers of people you see that have seen through it, which is a good thing, because we'll win the war in the end, because they've had to move too soon. When you move too soon, you make mistakes, and they are starting to make mistake after mistake after mistake after, and they are literally in hyper panic mode, trying to get all their agenda finished, but they're going to lose, because as I say, they went too soon, and everything's now imploding on them, which is why they're literally like headless chickens running around, trying to get it complete as quick as they can, get as many of the things into people as they can, get the population under control, but they're going to lose because they've realised it. They've realised it, which is why everything's now coming to this head, where they're running around beating the shit out of people in places like Canada, because they can't afford a large minority of the population, other than to wait. So if you said the 40% that kind of sitting on the fence, if a few more of them wake up, that's their game over.
Anyway, how's David?
Yeah, how are they, David? Anyway, so I'm just going to do a few more minutes. People can obviously watch this back later, so whatever. But
it's all different subjects.
When I come on next week, I'm going to break down into like bits talking about the various things I talked about, like the inauguration of the banking system on its own, not just going all over the place saying that. I won't go like this for now, so you're going to get an idea of where I'm coming from with all that's coming. Because as I say, it's all interconnected. Everything that's happened is interconnected with the so-called idea of the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, give it a name. It's just a name. They've changed it to the Great Reset. It was the New World Order. Now it's the Great Reset thing, which is what they brought Klaus Schwab out to the open for. I mean, the man's been in charge of the World Economic Forum for a few years, but because of their plans were going slightly awry, they flung him out, sort of, I think it was towards the end of 2020, and said, oh, this is a Great Reset. And then it was all over the news. Everybody was saying, the Great Reset, build back better. It was the mantra, all over the news. See? And then the mantra came, by 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. Well, of course you won't own anything because they're stealing it off you. Unless you stop them. But this is what it is. So everything they've done in the last couple of hundred years, and especially the last 2 years, is one thing only: theft. That's all it is. It's a theft. These people are nothing more than common or garden. They are a bit more than common, but they're nothing but thieves. This is all they are. They're megalomaniac thieves who've no other option but to steal everything. You know, like why do you think Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland in America? Because he wants to eat synthetic meat. If you're going to grow plants with synthetic meat, well, best of luck with that. So there's a film that I recommend everybody watch. It's called Soylent Green. Right, that's quite scary film. It's quite old, but it's quite scary. Or you can watch things like Idiocracy. That's a blinding film, Idiocracy. That shows that is where we are.
I'm talking today.
Where the world is in Idiocracy. There are other films out there like They Live Again. There's another film I love called Bounty Killer. It's a completely bonkers film, but it's about bounty hunters who go around arresting what's left of the hierarchy. Crazy film, man. Crazy film.
That's me messaging there to David, asking him how he is.
So watch Bounty Killer, Soylent Green, They Live, Animal Farm, 1984, V for Vendetta. There's a whole bunch of films out there which are quite good at explaining what's going on. So whether they deliberately put out there to sort of see if anybody will see through it, I don't know. But I saw through. I mean, I've been awake for more years than I can't remember. Probably longer.
It's good to see us today, guys.
Probably even longer than David and I. But I woke up in my teens. But
next time we go on there, we will get used to it and put a link in.
Yeah, we'll put a link in. We'll figure it out.
Because we're not.
And it'll come up because this is just a ramble, sort of just going all over the place about what's going on, the connection between everything. So it's all connected, and all it is the money. It's the theft. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's theft. There's nothing kind of secret about it, or it's a conspiracy theory. It is just theft. That's all they've done. They turned everybody into a corporation and stole your wealth. The wealth you were supposed to have from birth originally was stolen. You were supposed to have this certain amount of wealth, so that when you came of age to do whatever, you could trade with people on the wealth that was given to you at birth. In 1878, they invented the birth certificate and they stole that from you. They turned you from a man or woman into a person, a corporate entity under the rule of the Crown and maritime law, which is bullshit. So, but your rights They can't take away your rights or give you rights. Though your rights are inalienable from birth, but they make you think you've got no rights other than what they say you can. It's all bullshit, right? And this new thing that's coming up, where they're going to do this new rights thing. No, it's going. If you allow this to happen, they're going to enslave either all people, and the rest of us are going to have to take a chance on the outside. I'd sooner take the chance on the outside than live as a slave, people. And maybe enough of you won't join me. We'll go somewhere else.
My slave.
Yeah, and form our own societies outside of society, wherever. I'm not fussed. If enough of us get together and decide, we'll go somewhere else, out of the way of the corporate entities where they can't get at us, because here's the rub. Part of the Agenda 2030 thing was to get every single person into cities, right, in small apartments. Is the idea. So that they can lock you in using the resources they've got, like the police force and the military. But they have to get you in the cities because they don't have the manpower to control an entire country. Can't be done. So to get everybody that's left after this event, forcibly taken into these closed cities where you'll be in, and you will only be able to go out when they allow you to go out, and everything will be kind of delivered to you in effect that you want or don't want, whatever. And that's the idea, because they can't control an entire country. They just don't have the manpower to control it. So imagine that there was 5 or 6 million of us that are a dissident population, and they try to round us up. It won't work, because we can just scatter ourselves. Because there's enough countryside out there in any country to sort of get out of the way. Because, as I say, they don't have the manpower to go roaming around the bloody countryside trying to look for people who are standing outside the system. By this time, if they succeed in their plans, which I don't think they will, that they would have rounded up the sort of population that's left that don't die off for whatever reason into the cities. That's what they'll concentrate on doing. So everybody that lives in a city, which is the majority of people, let's face it, most people live in cities. They don't live out in the countryside. So the people are already in the cities. So all they've got to do is close those cities down. So if they could concentrate, say, let's say the population of England, if they could concentrate, which I would say, let's say 30 million people are succumb to the system, and they're living in the cities already. All they've got to do is choose 2 cities. So let's take, say, London and Birmingham, which are 2 great big cities, and they cram those 30 million people in those 2 cities. All they've got to do is build a little wall around them. That can be done. I mean, they could wall off all the roads in and out, so you can't get out, and then they could use soldiers or police, what's there, to patrol around. And all you've got to do is keep as many people indoors as you can.
Darling, you're going to say something. That person's on there, right? So can you speak in English? We do not understand.
What's that?
It's a foreign one at the bottom.
Oh yes. Can you say that in English, because we don't understand foreign languages. I'm sorry, but yeah, nice of you to come up anyway. But as I say, so could they achieve this? Possibly, but it's down to us. So us dissidents will be on the fringes of society. And that's another thing. If you look at most dystopian films, you've always got the fringe minority living on the outside. If you take any kind of film that's been done, serious film, about a dystopian future, there's always people on the fringe. Now, I would sooner live in the middle of nowhere, as long as there's a water supply somewhere and animals to hunt, and we can grow some sort of food here and there. I'd sooner do that.
Sorry, Donnie. Tell David now that because he's your first one on there, he's your moderator.
Oh, David, you're my moderator, mate.
Because you're the first customer.
Because you're the first customer.
Yeah.
So this could be the way the future goes. I don't know, but all I know is that we're run by these megalomaniacs who are literally on their last grasp grip of the empire. Will they succeed in their plans? Again, possible. Do I think they'll succeed in their whole plans? No. I don't think they'll achieve this idea of 800 million people. That, population down to 800 million. I don't think they'll kill 90% of the population. They might have done 60. For all the figures I can gather, they've probably done maybe 60% of the population. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But they're not going to get their 90% reduction, which is what was part of the plan of Agenda 21. It was to reduce population down by 90%. I don't think they'll get that. But the best they can achieve without losing control, as far as I'm concerned, is maybe 30% into the cities if they get that far down, and 10% of us will be on the outside going forward. And it's going to take a lot of years to re-establish a proper civilization, but we'll do it. We'll do it. Because the one thing about humans is we've survived all sorts of catastrophes and all sorts of lunatics through the millennia. And this is no different. We just have to stand firm, keep the ground, draw the line, this line and no further. And if there's 10 or 15% of us that are outside on the fringes, that's it. So it. The people that do get rounded up in the cities, if they succeed, well, tough luck, mate, because it's going to be stuffed. You ain't going anywhere. You'll have no freedom, no nothing. You'll be a brain dead moron stuck in a virtual world, which is what they're aiming at. While the rest of us are on the outside, struggling to start with, but with our freedom intact.
But it's been over now.
No, I wouldn't give up my freedom for anything. If they offered me $1 billion, no, fuck it, mate. I want my freedom. $1 billion don't mean fuck all. If there's nothing to buy with $1 billion, what's the point of owning $1 billion? You might as well just go. You might as well just go and get a bow and arrow, and go and hunt some frigging deer somewhere. Whatever. It's people think, oh, you're fucking mad. No, this could happen. Look, I firmly believe that humanity has not progressed. We've regressed. But the only way to progress now is to get out, to let this system do what it wants to do with its system. If it collapses or partially collapses, then so be it. Just don't be in the system. Just get out of it. The system's just about dead anyway. The money's worth nothing, right? So it's all going to implode eventually. And they could bring in, what they call the Chinese credit system, what it was called. Good luck with that. Human beings don't need money. Well, they don't need government. They don't need banks, and they don't need pharmaceutical corporations injecting bullshit in there, right? We survive. We are here because we got an immune system, and we survived cancer. We've survived earthquakes, ice ages, volcanic eruptions. You name it, right? We survived this, that, and everything else, and we're still here. We don't need help from a bunch of megalomaniacs like Bill Gates, who thinks he's got the answer to the world health. No, he hasn't. And if they were ever going to cure anything, why hasn't it been cured? The amount of money that is in this world could have solved starvation overnight. The amount of money that they've spent in the last couple of years, if they'd have redirected that towards growing food, they could have taken every single person on this planet out of poverty, and they could have cleaned up the water.
I think everybody's gone now, so
right.
It's been just over an hour.
So anyway, so I'm off. Going to go and do my dinner.
Oh, Dave's there.
And we'll talk again. So anyway, sorry for rambling on.
David is still there.
Yeah, right, Dave. So sorry for rambling on a lot, but I just want to get out how we see everything that's connected. But when I do future ones, I'll choose particular subject to talk for
See,
maybe.
David, you now turn blue. You're the moderator.
So maybe now talk when I do future ones, probably on Saturday. Talk for about an hour about a particular thing, and that's it. Maybe half an hour to an hour on a particular aspect of what I've just talked about today. Whether it be sort of banking system or its own.
So Donna, is it going to be Saturdays?
I think it'll probably be Saturdays.
And you're going to try not to do more than an hour.
No more than an hour. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to sign off now. Hopefully, some people might see this live later and make some comments, whatever.
Yeah.
But just going on rambling is just to show how, as I say again, everything's connected. You can go around in circles with it, but that's what it is. And again, all it's about is theft.
Yeah.
And the story is theft. They've duped you into believing that you're a free person. No, you're not.
I mean, next time round, I might even join you.
No, you're not. You've been enslaved all your life to a bogus monetary system and the corporations. And so the advice is, when elections come up, don't vote because it don't mean nothing. Your vote means nothing. It's already been settled. You can vote Labour, you can vote Conservatives, right? Unless a party came about that's totally free of the system, which is going to be a bloody difficult thing to do while the system's still running, you're not going to have freedom. Your vote means nothing, right? The corporations have been running the world for 300 years. You just didn't know it till now, right? You are a corporate slave. Slavery never ended. It just changed tact.
It could be about all sorts, isn't it?
There you go, people. So that's it. So, yeah, I will overleave that and talk again in the near future. Anyway, for now, ciao. One out.
Bye, David.
Bye, David. Bye, everybody that did come on. Anyway, bye-bye.
Don't forget a thumbs up, everybody.
Thumbs up, everybody. Respectfully said, right. Ciao.
See ya.